This is the Kratom Science Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Gallagher, blog and social media writer for KratomScience.com, your source for all things Kratom. My guest this week is the Boston Kratom Guy, Mike Overstreet. Mike has a podcast called the Kratom Guy Show. He's an outspoken Kratom warrior. He's not only a Kratom vendor, he's also a client. He's the third guy named Mike we've had on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Overstreet, the Boston Kratom Guy. When did you first discover Kratom?
Probably a few years ago. I don't know how I originally came across it, somewhere online, and I discovered it. I was looking for herbal alternatives to painkillers, something to help with back and hip pain. And it was just a couple of years ago, I guess.
Do you still use Kratom?
Yeah, I still use it. I've been using it for about a year now. Last January, I used it to get off of buprenorphine, which I was on Suboxone and then buprenorphine. Yeah, it was through looking for natural alternatives to pain medication and then getting me off of Suboxone.
Suboxone, they're using that's supposed to be the drug that weans people off of opioids. Is that what you were using it for? Or were you just using it for pain?
Yeah, well, originally I was on Suboxone to get off of opiates.
Okay.
And that was, I think, 2010. Yeah, so since 2010 till last January, I was on Suboxone, and then the last 2 years, I believe, I was on just buprenorphine.
I mean, what is that exactly?
So buprenorphine is one of the ingredients that makes up Suboxone. So Suboxone is mainly buprenorphine and then a small amount of naloxone or naltrexone. I think it's naloxone.
That's right.
And that's the opiate blocker.
Okay, yeah. So buprenorphine is the opiate and the naloxone is the blocker.
Yeah,
because that's kind of how Suboxone works,
agonist.
Right?
Yeah, so it's the buprenorphine is the partial agonist, and then the naloxone is the blocker. What I've discovered is that Kratom works very similar, and I sometimes describe it like that to people. I say it's a partial agonist, kind of tricks your brain into thinking you got something good without the health risks or the heavy euphoria. And but what I've been researching a lot, and I want to find out more about it, is that it seems like that with that naltrexone, and it might be that with the buprenorphine as well, just shutting down those receptors. I don't know what the detrimental health consequences are, but it was some negative stuff was happening to me when I was on that medication, and coming off of that medication and onto Kratom, it's like I rediscovered all these things that I used to enjoy.
Yeah, a lot of people say that about Kratom. I feel like myself again. Is that your experience?
Yeah, I didn't even realize it. I said it a couple of times on my show, and then on that NBC article, that I didn't realize how much that medication was taking away from me until I got off of it. It's like my whole world kind of opened up again. All this stuff that I had enjoyed before Suboxones, and I guess before opiates, all of a sudden got back into cooking. I went to culinary school, and then I hadn't cooked for years, and all of a sudden I enjoyed again. And music that I used to listen to when I was younger, I'm finding enjoyment in that. And it's just little stuff that I didn't even realize that how much it was shutting down my emotions, when I thought it was just, I guess I really didn't know what it was. I just knew it was going to help me get off of opiates.
I mean, is it really just the getting off of the opiates that you think helped, or did the Kratom kind of push you toward that thing of kind of rediscovering old things that you liked?
Well, I think it's going to be a combination of, but I really think that blocking those receptors is is what really did it. I mean,
Yeah.
the kratom does like a little mood boost. It kind of makes you mood boost or a little energy, and then nighttime is kind of easier for me to relax or go to sleep. But I really think that blocking those receptors is very detrimental. So I think it was
Which is
freeing
what the
up those,
Suboxone does, yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
I think it was really freeing up those receptors to allow the kratom to for its full potential is what I'm assuming. So yeah, probably a combination of.
Yeah, and we get a lot of comments on Kratom Science that a lot of people say, here's what I did. I got on Suboxone, then I tapered off Suboxone with Kratom. Like, they tapered off the opiates, other opioids with Suboxone, then they went Suboxone to Kratom, which sounds like what you did.
Yeah, it's I'm still feeling the health effects of that Suboxone. It has got artificial sweeteners and flavoring in there. Artificial flavors and sweeteners and coloring. And like, apparently I found this out afterwards, it dries out your mouth so much that's where you really get these bad tooth problems. So I'm still got to go to the dentist to get a couple of teeth fixed.
Oh, wow.
And I really think it was all due to this medication.
So you've been selling Kratom for how long? For about a year?
About a year. It's that January. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. In January, when I got off of the buprenorphine, I had left my job to start this company selling Kratom.
Yeah.
And it was a really good thing that I had those 2 weeks off, that I didn't have to go into work, because it was just complete lack of energy. And it's the Kratom, and I also have a medical cannabis card in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
The medical marijuana card. So it's just the
just
combination.
Got mine in Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yep.
And that really helps, because then you can go to the dispensary. I don't know how big the dispensaries are there in Pennsylvania, but Massachusetts, there's a few good medical dispensaries that you can. What I found out is, like, actually going in and talking to the people that are working there and finding the right mix or the right products for the different times of day, mixing like CBD and sativa during the day, along with like a green or white strain for kratom, and then indica at night. And it's like just figuring it out with the people at the dispensary, and then my doctor, which actually just did an interview with her. This is going to be the next show after the following one after this next one.
Oh, that's going to be cool.
Yeah, it was a really good interview, and I just had my doctor's appointment with her, and she said that she wants to do a follow-up with me just on basically people that are getting off of opiates, and really focus it on the opiates and getting off of opiates using medical marijuana and kratom.
I would love to find a primary care doctor that worked with me with all that.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Really,
I'm excited to listen to that interview.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was really great. That'll be a good one. I'll let you know when that's up. I started selling kratom when I was living in Boston a few years ago, kind of like just as like an experiment. And I started posting on Craigslist, just buying what I bought from a U.S. distributor, and then selling it on Craigslist into like friends and family, coworkers, and then that started to really pick up, and more people were buying enough where I was able to leave my full-time job to start the company. And we started the company in January, and we just launched. I guess the company was formed in January, but it started like a month or two after that. And then we just launched the website, the massherbalmarket.com. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of, I was just working before I was talking to you, I was working on the t-shirt designs. Got some really cool,
That's
cool
cool
shirts coming.
you're a podcast host and you're, an outspoken Kratom advocate. And as a vendor, I always wondered about this. Do you worry that something you might say on your podcast might, get picked up by the FDA and they'll say that you're making claims do you worry about that stuff?
Yeah, I definitely worry about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard some crazy stories of FDA sending cease and desist letters to Kratom distributor. I haven't found the proof, but this is what I've heard of, to Kratom vendors who got a comment on their Facebook page or their Reddit page.
Oh, and I haven't seen that.
Yeah, and it wasn't even, this is a claim I've heard a few times. Again, I haven't found any proof, but that apparently that it was in the comments from like just a commenter, a guest on the page, and they didn't refute it, so they got in trouble. So I'm definitely worried. I mean, it's a lot of shit that they're doing right now. Like they shut down all credit card processing. So I can't take credit card on the site.
Yeah.
And I do try to, I have that little disclaimer that I recorded for one of the first shows, so I put it in there.
Yeah.
Every time that I'm not giving medical advice, and my guests and I are not medical professionals. And I always try to phrase it that this is my own experience, or this is experience that I have reported firsthand,
mm-hmm.
that a Kratom consumer has told me. So I try to be, of course I'm worried about it, but I try to be as clear as I can that I'm not giving advice, and I actually advise people to not take Kratom. I just say what I do and what I've heard from people who have taken it. So, I mean, they're still attacking the importations, the Indonesian exports, to try to shut that down.
Yeah. But it's pretty encouraging. I think that they're going to legalize it in Thailand. I just posted an article about that today. So hopefully we'll get another production market going there.
Yeah, that's I just made a short video about that, answering the WUFT article that was all focused, Kratom hit piece focused on Ian Montner's mother. I think it was 21 or 22, committed suicide, and the mother's blaming it on Kratom.
Is that WUFT? Yeah, I was just looking at that right before you called.
Yeah, so, and one of those claims are, well, they banned it in all these other places. If you're talking about the U.S., they have no idea why they banned it. They just banned it because the FDA said it should be banned. But the one in Thailand, I found out that was 1942 that law was.
Yeah, 43. I just read. Yep.
Oh yeah, and it's 43. And the Justice Minister, I mean, he seems like he's a staunch medical marijuana or medical cannabis and Kratom advocate.
Yeah.
So it would be great. It would be great to get another source of Kratom coming in.
And it's traditional in their culture too. It never should have been shut down. And I think a lot of Kratom advocates know that it was getting in the way of the opium market in 1943, so that's why they outlawed it. And I just read about it, and there's a really good report called from 2011 by Pascal Tanguay. He's like a French Canadian, but he does work in Thailand. But the report's called Kratom in Thailand: Decriminalization and Community Control. And there was kind of they started, like, after the turn of the 21st century, they started a really violent drug war in Thailand, but after 2011, they started to gradually, liberalize the drug laws, so to speak. And last year, they legalized cannabis and Kratom for medicinal use and research, and so now it looks like Kratom is just going to be entirely legal there, which is great.
Yeah, it's if that's the whole thing, because if they decriminalize, then I think it'll still not be able to be exported. But if they completely take it off their controlled substance list, yeah, we could see a whole nother market open up, and people in Indonesia are cashing in on this. I've talked to farmers that were almost out of work, and now their families are doing well because of kratom and the U.S. exports.
It'd be interesting to talk to some of those farmers.
Yeah, definitely would. I want to go there. I was supposed to go there this December, but my wife had her appendix burst.
That's
so sucks. It actually happened on our wedding.
Oh my God, that is horrible.
Yeah, it's
sorry to hear that. Holy shit.
Yeah, thank you. She's doing better, and then she's going in January 7th to actually get the appendix out. So yeah, it's a crazy way to start our marriage.
Yeah, God, man.
So yeah, we were supposed to go there, and we got a lot of our wedding guests gave us money to put towards the honeymoon fund. That we were going to go to Indonesia, both Jakarta, and then out in West Borneo to check out some kratom farms. Along with we were supposed to go to Thailand and Singapore.
Yeah.
Or Thailand and Malaysia rather.
Yeah.
The big one right now would be Indonesia. What I really want to do is through crypto is hooking up kratom farmers with U.S. buyers. And that's another project down the road.
I noticed on Twitter you're pretty outspoken libertarian, but do you support the Kratom Consumer Protection Act or like government regulations to keep kratom legal or whatnot?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that kratom and cannabis should be regulated as much as basil or lettuce is.
Yeah.
Let the free market control it. But yeah, I am a supporter of the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. Basically anything that restricts government. And what I'm really, really against is the use of violence against peaceful people who haven't harmed anybody. So when people talk about a ban, they always call it a kratom ban. It's not a kratom ban. It's the use of violence against peaceful people that want to use kratom, because there's always something that goes along with the ban, like jail time or money, the threat of violence, that the government's going to take your money or actually take you physically, and if you try to resist, they'll kill you. So it's a threat of deadly violence for plants is what I'm really against, and I'm for it. Like I'm for anything that will advance that further. Like the medical marijuana, which led to the decriminalization. What I talk about because I'm in Massachusetts, the decriminalization of marijuana, which led to medical marijuana, which led to recreational. So it's all in the right step. I think as long as it's moving in the right direction, it's a good thing.
Okay, yeah. And what about like good manufacturing practices? That's kind of another. It seems like a reasonable restriction on businesses. Just to make sure the supply is good and healthy and it's not adulterated.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I mean, it's one of our first goals is to start testing our products. I'm actually trying to figure out a way that I can get it tested before it leaves Indonesia, because the costs will be a lot less. Anytime you put a law in the books, it's saying that it's backed by the threat of force, the threat of violence.
Yeah.
So saying that you have to adhere to this or else we're going to hurt you. Especially the companies that have harmed people, I don't think they should be able to put products on the market that without getting it tested and proving what it is. But I mean, I think if there's a bad product out there, that people shouldn't be taking it if they don't know where it's coming from and it's not from a trusted vendor. So whether it's getting tested or not, it's still the trustworthiness of the vendor.
I mean, I know I've talked to vendors that they're not doing a GMP program yet, but they have suppliers that test, before they import, and they have a customer base that I used to be an organic farmer with my ex-wife, and we weren't certified organic because there was too much bureaucracy, and $100 a month was too much for us at the time. But it was easy to do because we sold our food locally, and we could say, and our customers became like an extended family, so we could say, you can come to our farm anytime and looked at, and we don't use pesticides, and our chickens are, but we're not going to go through the rigmarole of that, would require more work, and we're constantly working day to night. So I think there's a lot of companies that are actually have good kratom, but they kind of have that attitude. But eventually, I think, they're probably going to have to adhere to some kind of good manufacturing practices. And in that light, what do you think about what the American Kratom Association is doing, and what do you think about the American Kratom Association? I'll ask you that.
I've donated to the American Kratom Association, and I think they're doing, as far as I know, they're doing great work. There's been multiple recent smears on them, but I saw one, and it's like the one video is some random person put it up and said that basically the GMP, what they're alleging is that the AKA GMP equivalent practices is going to be their way of basically cornering the market. And then between what's going on in Indonesia and the FDA, that the big conspiracy is that that's going to be the only people that can sell kratom, and then you have to pay a certain amount to get it. And then there was that Kratom Information and Resource Center, how the AKA was going after them.
Yeah, I listened to your podcast. I was listening to your podcast today where you talked about that, and that was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that, and thank you. But I thought that was really interesting, because once I look into it, like, there's really is like nothing about that company, but I can't find anything negative that they're doing.
Yeah, they had a beef. The AKA said they shouldn't be, chiding the media or whatever. A lot of times when there's a popular movement against something that the government wants, or that power in general wants, like in this case would be like Big Pharma and alliance with the FDA want to ban kratom, that they will counter it by trying to stir up division, in the ranks. Do you think that's going on with that, or is that just kind of like getting too far into the woods?
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, I got what they were saying about their warning, but then I couldn't really find much about the company, and I guess it's like, should you be poking the bear, and it's like how you go about it. And I don't know much about that company, but I mean, as far as the AKA goes, they've done some great work. With Jack Henningfield, the
Definitely.
John Hopkins adjunct professor or doctor, addiction specialist, and prescription specialist, and Dr. Babin, and so many
great.
others. Yeah, there's so many others that have done such amazing work through the AKA that nobody else is doing. So the 8-factor safety analysis and the reply to that CDC report.
I mean, Mac is like flying to Indonesia and stuff like that. We're so lucky to have that on our side, because I've been part of other sort of movements that wanted to change laws and stuff, like having to do with farming. We went up against the USDA for stuff, and we didn't have an organization like the AKA, so we shouldn't take them for granted, because they know what to do politically, and we're really lucky to have them, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I'm constantly checking in on their stuff. But what I've been trying to get through, and even kind of force myself to do it, is that, and this reason, one of the reasons why I started the podcast, one was to keep in touch with my text list, is how it started. But I was talking to people all the time about kratom, and I'd be covering like the same things over and over, recent stuff. So I created that podcast. But it's to get involved. Like, I think too many people are not only not donating to the AKA, but they're kind of just relying on them, that they're going to take care of everything.
Absolutely.
I believe if that wasn't if the people didn't physically come out there in Ohio, they were going to ban it through the pharmacy board. As great work as they're doing, and I think they're amazing, and I really thank them all for doing it. Just trying to implore people to get more involved in their local area or even nationally. So, like I'm in Massachusetts, so right in my backyard, Rhode Island. All of a sudden, I had a customer in Rhode Island, and then I don't anymore because they ban it. And then I also found out that looking at the legality map, it's banned in Vermont as well. So it's these things close by myself that I want to get more involved in to see what I can do to change it locally.
Yeah, and another thing is to be proactive. I was just talking to Nina Ashton the other day, who's a Kratom activist, and she said, she's going to be going down to Southern Illinois. She lives near Chicago, and she's, I think, at the end of January, and she's going to be meeting with some municipalities down there and officials that have been, talking about maybe banning it. But even if you're not banning it, your local officials, who are most likely just like you and me, not every government official has some, link to, massive power or anything. They're basically, some of them just, that's their job. We were talking about, well, why don't you go meet with your representative and just tell them about Kratom and tell them what's going on, because if they get that information first, by the time they get it, they're either going to get it from us or they're going to get it from the FDA. And if we make a good impression on them, go into their office, hello, nice to meet you, shake their hand. And, I think it would be a good thing for anybody to do, even if it's not a threat in your town or state.
Yeah, I get kind of mixed about that.
Yeah.
I thought about that too. Like, maybe I could introduce the Kratom Consumer Protection Act by me, and it's like, well, there's no activity right now about Kratom at all. So why should I be the one to sound the bell, sound the alarm that this is happening, and then basically risk that negative reaction?
Let sleeping dogs lie, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's hard because I know there was years ago, like before I even knew about Kratom in Massachusetts, there was a bill that didn't go anywhere that they were trying to ban it.
So you were shut down on Twitter. Did they tell you why you were shut down? And you also were, I think at one point you were trying to give away free Kratom via Facebook, and they shut down the post.
Yeah, they keep shutting me down. I got permanently suspended from Twitter, and then whatever it was, like a 5-day or 9-day suspension from Facebook. No, they never told me what happened on Twitter. It's basically like it's all automated, and they say you can't appeal it. And then I went in and appealed it, and it was like you basically had to give you like this automated response. It's like you did one of these things, one of these 9 things to get your account suspended. And there's no changing it or going back. And basically what they were claiming, and it was, I guess, my own fault, kind of, but I didn't know that it was going to happen. I logged out of, I have multiple accounts, and a few of them have the name Kratom in it. Just like users that I haven't even used before, they were for something else that I'd be doing. Multiple ones had Kratom in it, and I logged out, and then I was trying to figure out which email synced up to which account, and I logged back into all of them at one time, and that's what tripped off the algorithm. I mean, that's what I assume, and they never fully told me, and there's no getting it back. So, and then Facebook, I've been posting before we launched Mass Herbal Market. Yeah, the company's called Mass Herbal, and the website is massherbalmarket.com. And before we launched that, I was just selling just through text message. I'd make up like a little PDF menu and send it out to my text list, and just do orders that way. And I had been posting on the Boston Kratom Guy Facebook page that those menus every month, and it was like, oh, you can boost it for $5 to boost it locally. And then as soon as I boost the post, I got immediately suspended.
Tell you, that conversation with Nick Wing was great. That was a good
thank
one.
you.
I talked to him a little bit on Twitter and stuff, and I've written articles that referenced his work. But he did a really good job with the thing that happened in eastern Pennsylvania with the kid who died in a car accident, and then he had to sue the coroner to get the autopsy results. But
yeah, I wish that went through. I mean, I guess that court case is still up in the air.
Yeah. I mean that actually the case was dropped because Huffington Post was suing them, and then they did a mass layoff after Huffington Post was sold to Verizon, so he lost his job there, and they just dropped the lawsuit because they didn't,
right.
They're not going to do that for a reporter that no longer works there. So.
Right. I mean, that lawsuit. I mean, I wish they just did they finished the story and had somebody else take it over. The case I was talking about was the actual court case.
Okay.
Because everyone's been saying, or the other Kratom activists, and I think you said it too, and Nick said it as well, that all that information should come out in the court case.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard anything about that wrongful death case.
No, I haven't either. And in fact, after I wrote that article, I found out that the father who's suing them actually works for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and they do nothing but hit pieces on Kratom with Mary Schaefer. She writes nothing but hit pieces on Kratom. And it's really bad, and it's really not even just, she doesn't even listen. And we try to, I've had a conversation with her on Twitter, so has Kratom Culture Magazine's been on there, and Nick Wing has had discussions with her, and she just does not even acknowledge that the other side exists in her reporting.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's almost like the WUFT article that I just made that little video on. They cite the CDC report. They say the 91 deaths, but don't even complete. It's not only in the same report, it's in the same sentence that of those 91, only 7 were reported to have only Kratom, and of those 7, there's no guarantee that other substances weren't in the system.
Yeah. So and we could say, and even the Kratom alone deaths, we have examples from Colorado where it was the medical examiner found that, but it turned out no, it wasn't. They had fentanyl in their system as well. So
right, yeah, we discussed that too on my show. The Colorado deaths that the New England Journal of Medicine looked into.
Yeah, and
that's the end of the sentence. I went back and looked at the CDC report. That full sentence, at the end of that sentence about the 91 deaths that they don't finish, about the 7 deaths, and can't say that other drugs weren't in their system, at the end is a little 4 in parentheses, and then you go down at the bottom, and their source, number 4, is that New England Journal of Medicine report. So it's just astonishing that somehow I'm not a trained journalist, and I can do this. You can do this. Other Kratom activists can do this, but they can't.
Yeah, I mean they could read these. Those reports are just as available to them as they are to us. I mean, on the one hand, it's just lazy journalism because some of the I sympathize with some of like the more small town papers that just have to write a ton of stories a week, and that this is what the FDA says. Why would they question the FDA? But then some of these reporters that have been working on Kratom, like at the Philadelphia Inquirer, they have a responsibility to look into these things and read these, the 8-factor analysis response, which is a big one. Jane Babin's anything that she's written, it's available to them, and they could weigh whether or not they think it's right, but they're just not listening to that side.
Yeah, and it's really astonishing. It makes you think that. I mean, it's easy to say lazy reporting, but it really is dangerous reporting when you break it down at this most basic level of people advocating for violence to be used against people who could consume or possess the plants.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think most reasonable people, even if they don't consider themselves a libertarian, anybody reasonable agrees with that a ban just drives a black market, and it's just unreasonable to throw people in jail for consuming substances, any substances.
Yeah, a ban is always multifaceted, just in a negative way. It's like there's so many different layers of a ban or prohibition that goes wrong. From creating a criminal market to having no foresight or recourse for the customer if they do get tainted or adulterated products. But yeah, the Nick Wing interview that was great. I was really glad that he agreed to come on and talk for a while, and because he's one of the few that had been doing reports on Kratom for the mainstream media. That actually looked at it in following the science kind of way, and realistic about what was happening. Interviewing him was really great, and I got a couple other interviews that I have recorded. Yeah, with like interviewing my medical marijuana doctor, Dr. Uma down in Bala.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I decided that it's called the Kratom Guy Show, but I can really talk about anything I want. So
yeah,
kind of branching out from other stuff, kind of Kratom related is what I really want to start doing.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, because we kind of want to bring other people with other interests in, and just to teach more people about what Kratom is before they get brainwashed by the negative news.
Yeah, it would be nice to maybe we could organize something with us and maybe a couple other Kratom advocates to do a live event. I think that would be cool, is to get to actually meet some people that are consuming Kratom and see kind of what ideas we can come up with to help each other.
Oh yeah, I'd be down with that. Definitely.
I started my podcast as a means of basically giving my text list an update. I left it up there as an episode, the first couple episodes, but they're really not. It's just like, hey guys, this is what's happening. This is what strains I got going on right now. This is what's new. And it kind of just grew. But what really shocked me and what really pushed me to actually turn it into a podcast is how many people I get that call me or text me or hit me up on social media. It was like, hey, I heard your podcast. I got this question about Kratom, or how do I buy, or where can I get some more information? Talking to people all over the country, and people who are literally so desperate to get off of heroin or fentanyl, they have no idea what to do. But then after I talk to them, they get some Kratom, and I keep in touch with them months later. They're still consuming Kratom, and they haven't touched an opiate, and their lives are so much better.
Yeah, that's great.
So many of those stories. It's unbelievable to me that I could be doing this. But I want basically that's to me, that's what it's all about. The money and selling stuff. I believe that will come as long as I'm doing the right thing. And it's getting the word out to people. 'Cause sometimes I feel like on Twitter we're just kind of preaching to the choir. We're all Kratom advocates, telling each other all the same stuff that we already know. But it's getting those new people in. So whatever I can do to continue to get new people educated on medical cannabis and Kratom, the better.
Thanks to Mike Overstreet, the Boston Kratom Guy, and his podcast is called Kratom Guy Show. The music is by Risey. The song is called Memories of Thailand. For more information on all things Kratom, see kratomscience.com. Take care.